everyone, my name is Keely. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. Today I'm going to do a video ranking all of Riley Sager's books. So Riley Sager is one of my favorite authors of all time. He is very polarizing. I feel like people either love his books or they hate his books. For me, I have loved every single book of his, and I don't think that's going to change. There's just something about the way he tells his stories and his writing and the atmosphere and the plot twists in his books. He just really gets me every time, and I have enjoyed my time so much reading all of his books. So far, he has 6 books that are out, and so I am going to start from number 6 and go all the way to number 1. Now, just because these are ranked lower doesn't mean I didn't enjoy them. Like I said, I have loved every book. There are just some that hit harder than others for me. You know how it goes. But yes, let's start with number 6. So coming in at number 6, we have The Last Time I Lied. So we follow Emma, and there are alternating chapters in this book, and Emma is a woman who is an up-and-coming artist, and when she was a little girl, she went to Camp Nightingale. While she was at Camp Nightingale, she got to stay in the cabin with 3 older girls, and one night these 3 older girls go out in the middle of the night and they are never seen or heard from again. Now Emma really looks up to these girls, and she kind of hero worships them. She thinks they are the coolest thing, and when Emma is an older woman, she's kind of tried to put all that behind her, but the owner of Camp Nightingale comes back and asks Emma to come back to Camp Nightingale for one more summer to teach art. And so Emma kind of has to face the past and kind of figure out what happened to those girls. So like I said, this one is ranked number 6, so I still really enjoyed it, but it is my least favorite Riley Sager book. I think this one was just a little bit slower for me. I also hate the hero worship trope. I just really don't like when characters are completely obsessed with someone who is very toxic, and these older girls, in my opinion, were extremely toxic, and I just didn't like the hero worship going on behind it. This one was also a lot slower than some of other Riley Sager's books, in my opinion, but I did love the camp vibes. It was really great. All the vibes in Riley Sager's books are really immaculate, and I just really like them. But yes, this is number 6 for me. So coming in at number 5 is one of his most polarizing books, but I really had a great time reading it, and that is Survive the Night. So we follow college student Charlie, and this book is actually set in the 90s, which helps the setting and makes everything make sense because Charlie's best friend was recently killed by the campus serial killer. So Charlie wants to leave college and go back home. And so she goes to the board in her dorm lobby and looks for a rideshare. Now back in the 90s, this was really common. People would just, ask people if they were going to the same city as them, and they would share rides. It was like a carpool thing. So she gets in the car with this man Josh, and she quickly realizes that Josh may or may not be the campus serial killer that killed her best friend, and she essentially has to survive the night. Now I just really enjoyed this one. I thought it was incredibly fast-paced, and it was also pretty creepy to me because when I was in college, a similar type thing happened to me where I had to have a ride home from one of my classes that was off campus. So I only had like 5 kids in my class, and I had to ride home with the very quiet, mysterious guy that nobody really knew, but I needed a ride. And he gave me a ride, and we took a wrong turn, and it felt like he was trying to take me out of town before I quickly said something. And so as I was reading this, I had that memory pop back up, and I was like, I've been in this situation before. Now, in this book, Charlie is actually an unreliable narrator because she does have this mental illness where she kind of sees movies in her head. So there are scenes where we don't know if the thing is actually happening or if it's just a movie that she is seeing inside her head, which I thought added so much more intrigue to the story because the whole time you were like, is this happening? Is this as scary as she thinks it is, or is she just imagining it? The twist in here was great. Should have saw it coming, but I really think that I'm dumb sometimes, and I really didn't see it coming, and I just really had a great time reading this one. Coming in at number 4, we have Lock Every Door. This follows a girl named Jules who is recently broken up with, and she is heartbroken with nowhere to stay until she sees an ad saying that they will pay someone to live in the infamous Bartholomew Apartments. And she just has to follow some simple rules. And the rules are no visitors, no nights spent away from the apartment, no disturbing the other residents, all of whom are rich or famous or both. And so she goes there and she's like, wow, I get paid thousands of dollars to just stay in this really nice apartment. Okay. Until weird things start going on. People might have gone missing. The residents are kind of weird. it's interesting. So this was actually my first Riley Sager book, and I remember exactly where I was when I first picked up my Riley Sager book, and I was captivated from the moment I started reading it, and I was just very excited to find a new thriller author. And this is actually the book that opened up the world of thrillers to me, because I always thought I hated thrillers, which is weird because I literally went to school to study serial killers, so you would think that I would love them, but this just opened up that world for me so much, and so it really, really means a lot to me. This one was so interesting and unlike anything I had ever read. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, and the twist is something I never saw coming, and honestly, I have never read anything like this twist before in another book. I think it is very unique, and this just introduced me to Riley Sager's world and writing, and I just absolutely loved it and had a fantastic time reading it. Coming in at number 3 is another one of his most polarizing, and that is his newest release, The House Across the Lake. So we follow famous actress Casey, and recently Casey has done something to get her name in the spotlight because her husband has recently passed away, and so she decides to get out of the spotlight by staying at her family's lake house for the summer. And across the lake there is a famous couple with windows all over the house, so Casey gets to spend her evenings drinking and spying on her neighbors. One day she sees the wife across the lake, Catherine, go into the lake and she starts drowning, so Casey goes and saves Catherine and they form this friendship. A few days later, Catherine ends up going missing, and Casey thinks that there's something weird going on, and she really does not trust Catherine's husband. I loved this one so much. I had so much fun reading it. So this is set in fall time on a lake, and the vibes and the atmosphere were just incredibly amazing. I definitely recommend reading this in the fall time because it just gives you all of those fall vibes, and I just really, really loved it. Now, I am not a lake person, I am not an ocean person, but I love books that are set around water because I just think it creates such a creepy atmosphere because I don't like water. I really enjoyed Casey. She is another kind of unreliable narrator because she is an alcoholic. Now, I was worried about reading about someone with alcoholism, especially because a lot of the complaints I've heard about this book are because Casey drinks too much, but that honestly didn't bother me at all, and I was really pleasantly surprised by that. Now, the twist in here is another one that people either love it or hate it, and for me, I loved it. It was unlike anything I've ever read, and maybe I enjoyed this one so much because I have started reading thrillers within the last year or two, so I haven't read a whole lot like this. So many people have said that it is similar to like The Woman in the Window, but I have never read that. So this is my first experience with a story like this, and I just thought the twist was once again unique for me. I hadn't read anything like it, and I really did not expect it. I liked Casey. I loved how things wrapped up, and I just loved all the red herrings that were thrown in there. So every time Riley Sager gives you a twist, he usually twists it again, and it gets me every single time, even though I should know better by now. But yes, this one is number 3, and I had a great time. So the top 2 books were actually really, really difficult for me to separate. They're both basically in my number 1 spot, but I had to pick a 1 and 2. So coming in at number 2, we have Home Before Dark. Now this follows a woman named Maggie, and 25 years ago, her and her parents lived in Baneberry Manor, which is a famous estate because it is haunted, or so they say. So 25 years ago, they stormed out in the middle of the night, and her dad actually released a memoir all about the haunting of Baneberry Manor. Now 25 years later, she has inherited this house, and she has to go back, and she does not believe that it's haunted one bit. But then, as she's staying there trying to fix this house up, some creepy things start happening. I really, really enjoyed this one. Now, if you like the Haunting of Hill House TV show on Netflix, then you might enjoy this one because I actually read this one right after I finished The Haunting of Hill House. I didn't even mean to because I didn't realize the similarities until I read this, and I was like, oh my gosh, these are so similar, but I actually really enjoyed that. I didn't mind it one bit, but I really loved Maggie as a character. I love that she went into this house a skeptic, and then as creepy things started happening, she was like, okay, maybe my dad's book was actually true and I just didn't remember anything. So I also really like in this book that we get chapters from her dad's memoir about the haunted house. It adds so much more creepiness to the story, and this book of Riley's actually leans more towards the horror side. It is not straight up horror, but it is the most horror out of all of his books, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was so creepy. The manor was absolutely just the creepiest thing. I really love haunted manors and just spooky, creepy, big houses, and this did it so perfect. Riley Sager's writing paired so well with the plot, and it was just so descriptive and really put you right into that house. I just had such a great time reading this and definitely recommend it. Number 1 or number 2, you never know. So if you haven't narrowed it down by now, number 1 goes to Final Girls. So we follow a girl named Quincy, and 10 years ago, her and her 5 friends went and stayed at a cabin, and Quincy was the only one that made it out alive. So in this story, there are actually 3 Final Girls, and one of them, the oldest Final Girl, actually ends up found dead, and they quickly realize that she might have been murdered and people might be coming after the Final Girls. So when the other Final Girl, Sam, shows up on Quincy's doorsteps, Quincy doesn't know what to believe, if she should believe Sam or if she's just lying to her, and trying to figure out if somebody is actually coming after the Final Girls. So I am surprised looking back now that this was my favorite Riley Sager book, because I do not like slashers. This is a slasher book, and slasher movies are not my thing. They are cheesy and I just don't think they are done very well, but I am quickly realizing recently that slasher books are fantastic, that I really, really enjoy them, and then it explains so much why I love Final Girls so much. I think this one is done so well. It is so creepy and you don't know what's going on the whole time, and I just love the whole Final Girl trope, and I love the whole people are coming after them again, and so it sounds bad, but the fact that they have to relive like their trauma and what happened to them. The twist in here was unexpected for me. I feel like, once again, I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. I just really had a great time reading it, and I definitely recommend it. I just loved the vibes. Once again, Quincy is in a cabin, and so when she does go back to this cabin, it has great cabin forest vibes, which is perfect for a spooky slasher, in my opinion. So this is my final ranking of all of Riley Sager's books that are currently out. So this is my ranking as of August of 2022. Things could change. I feel like I need to read all of these back to back and just solidify my thoughts, but yes, these are my rankings as of right now. I cannot wait for his next books to come out in the future, whenever they do come out, and maybe I'll do an updated ranking video one day. I know so many people dislike his books, but I will never be one of those. I am such a Riley Sager fan, and I have loved every book that he puts out, and I really hope you do too. Let me know what your Riley Sager top book is. I would love to know your favorite book. If you have made it this far in the video, go ahead and leave the little knife emoji, because slasher, you know how it goes. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, all my social media links will be down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!